Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Misfortune Supplementary guide, and today we're going to be talking about crit Misfortune. So as we know, I think the best build is going Dustblade into crit. This one foregoes the Dustblade and goes straight into crit, and let's just talk about it, right? So first off, despite going for a crit build, you still want to go for Boots of Dynamism as your first item and as your boots, because with the early lethality, you can of course get a stronger laning phase, and you can of course just deal more damage in general. So then instead of going for like Collector first item, you want to go for Bloodthirster first item, because Bloodthirster for 3k gold is just the most OP ADC item in the game, right? You get a lot of AD, you get the lifeline passive, you get the defensive capabilities, you get physical vamp, you know, just all that good stuff, right? So you always want to go for this first item most of the time if you can. If you have it in the build, it's probably going to be first item. You probably don't want to be going for this second or third, for example. Then with Collector, you also want to build this early. So Collector typically is a first or second item for champions who build Collector. So with this, since we're prioritizing Bloodthirster, Collector is going to go to second. And of course, this gives you more armor pen as well as giving you crit as well. Of course, now with the new passive, you can of course scale a little bit with Collector. So it will be a little bit better in the late game compared to the before 6.2. And then your typical, i.e. Mole Reminder for the extra crit damage, as well as the Grievous Roots and Armor Pen. Last item, you can go for something defensive like Maw or like GA. And actually with the crit build, instead of going for first strike, I like press the attack or empowerment. Now why is that the case? Because with the crit build, you're generally going to auto attack at least a couple of times to proc your passive. And I just think that, you know, with first strike, it works way better with lethality, or like, you know, with Dustblade, where you are able to burst someone down. With crit, you can still burst people down, but I think press the attack is just better in general. Right, then you go for the usual ADC loadout, nothing surprising here. And for the spells, you go for Flash together with Cleanse if you need it. Otherwise, Barrier or Exhaust works very well as well. But with that out of the way, let's now move on to talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now taking a look at the gameplay itself. Now, you guys may or may not have seen, but a lot of the top MF players actually have the crit build as the default build. Now, as I said, I tested both crit and lethality at the same time. Now, I feel that now the main reason why MF is a strong champion, like, of course she did just get nerfed in patch 6.2a, but I still think she's a pretty strong champion, and why that is the case is really because I think her Q, being able to proc her passive instantly onto the target you bounce on, as well as proccing Dustblade at the same time, as well as proccing first strike if you have it, just makes it such that one Q can do like more than half the health of the squishy after you get, like, you know, some items. And I think that's where MF's strengths lie, right? Of course, if you get an insane ult onto multiple people, it's really good as well. But let's face the facts, right? There are plenty of MF games where the majority of the game you never, or not the majority of the game, the entire game you never get one good ult, right? Or sometimes you get like just one good ult, right? So MF is not really a champion, in my opinion, that is fully dependent on her ult. Yes, her ult is a very strong tool, but I do believe MF has been balanced more around her Q than her ult, right? In the sense that, as I said, her main damage potential comes from Q, which is not very hard to hit. And then you bounce to someone else, and you just do high damage to two different targets. And I think that's where her strength lies, which is why I think that the best build to go for, as Leona goes in for an engager onto the Ashe. Now here we are getting off a very good trade, forces Ashe to Ghost and Flash. Lulu now finds herself in a similar situation. We're trying to force her summoner spells as well. We managed to get summoner heal from Lulu, so we forced 3 summoner spells. However, Wukong comes over, forces our summoner spells, and Leona is now running for the hills. Unfortunately, Leona dies and blows both summoner spells as well. Of course, fight started off really well up till the point where Wukong came in and caused an issue. We'll go back to talking about the build in a little bit, because I know there's still going to be more action here. Now here, I'm just trying to defend my tower against Ashe. Now here, I pop the E, and Ashe tanks the entire E. So here, she has the full stack MF passive on her. I was trying to just get a one-shot off on her, but unfortunately, especially after the MF nerfs, MF just doesn't do enough damage anymore by proccing her passive and press the attack as well. I thought I could have killed her there with like an auto-Q auto, especially after she got the MF passive fully stacked up, right? But unfortunately, that was not really the case. So back to the build discussion. Now, seeing as MF is a burst-oriented champion, I think that going for Dustblade into crit is kind of the most logical way to go, because you get the burst damage from Dustblade, and then you get the burst damage from even Collector or BT, for example, which gives a lot of AD. But also you get the benefits of crit, right? Collector is such an OP item. Not Collector is such an OP item. Bloodthirster is such an OP item. Collector is still kind of a meh item. But Bloodthirster is such an OP item as Ashe now completely gets caught. No summoner spells anymore, remember. We're just going to run her down. And there goes Ashe, right? Lulu now taking a bit of damage as well. Unfortunately, Leona cannot tank anymore, so we're not going to be able to get the kill on Lulu. But yeah, you get all the benefits of the crit items as well as getting Dustblade just for that early game damage, right? Of course, Dustblade is not the most essential part of the build, which is why you can also just go for a pure crit build, which is what a lot of people like, which of course gives you the benefit of reaching 100% crit faster, which is, of course, a major breakpoint in the game. And also just a crit build is just really good, right? So crit, I think, comes close second after the Dustblade build. And Lethality is still a very viable build, right? I've tested the Lethality build. I'm going to be making a video on it, but essentially, yes, right? Lethality has its merits as well, especially if you're playing against a full squishy team. Now, based on the fact that Lulu cancelled her recall here when I walked up, means that that Pixel Bush is warded, right? The Pixel Bush in the bot lane. Or rather, technically this is the top lane, but you guys get what I mean, right? So we know that that's warded, so we know that, you know, if anything, it's gonna, our jungler will be spotted or whatnot. Right, so yeah, MF after the nerf in patch 6.2a, I think is still a strong champion. However, it's just not as good as what she was, obviously, in 6.2. I mean, the nerfs were really, really massive, right? But the MF still being strong after the nerfs kind of just shows how strong MF was before the nerfs, right? I mean, the fact that she's still doing alright after the nerfs kind of just means that before the nerfs she was just completely busted, right? And I did think she was completely busted. Like, her Q did half of your health when you had like no items. Especially if it didn't have bone plating, you get hit by a Q and bam, your entire health bar just vanishes, and that's just horrible, right? So MF's such an unfair champion to play against previously. I mean, even now she's still a very oppressive champion. That is kind of her how she works, right? As the wind wall comes up and I'm not able to really do anything, flashing away. I have to even cleanse because Ashe is slowing me down, and I need to get to the safety of my tower. Thankfully, Yone is here to back me up. However, Yone is now in a 1v3 situation. I tried to distract the Lulu here so she doesn't help in the fight, but he is not going to make it out. Now, Lilia is now going in against all of them as well, and I think she has just signed her own death warrant because you can't be going in 1v3, 1v4 after your whole team has died. So basically, essentially, my team all ends up dying one by one, and that was a ugly situation. Now, I myself in this game not doing particularly well. We did get that 1 kill on Ashe. However, aside from that, Ashe is now 1k gold, almost 1k gold up on us, and obviously that's not the ideal situation. Now here I get a nice bounce onto Lulu, which does a decent amount of damage. Of course, with first strike, the damage will be more. You also get gold, but as I said, I think press the attack and first strike both have their merits, you know, for each. Of course, first strike just gives you the burst damage, whereas press the attack gives you the consistent damage, right? Now, why do I say that? Because when you proc press the attack onto someone, if you haven't burst them down yet, you can actually keep on attacking them, and you can actually win a lot of 1v1s that you wouldn't think that you would, right? I've won 1v1s against like Dravens and Kaisers just from them underestimating the full stack passive, right? And what I mean by that is, for example, they take a bounce to the head, they get chunked a little bit, they have a full stack passive, they decide to go all in, and then I just all in auto attack them with my W, and I end up winning the fight, right? Which I think is, I would say, is pretty surprising. Now, speaking of all in fights, me and Ashe are going into an intense 1v1. I'm thinking I got this here, but unfortunately, the goal gap just a little bit too big there, and Ashe ends up getting the kill on me. Now, I honestly felt that I would have got the kill on her there. Now, unfortunately, Leona here flashes to close the distance, runs over, and just ults Ashe under tower to get the kill onto the Ashe, giving me the assist as well. So yeah, pretty action-packed early game so far, and you guys know the game is now really snowbally. Here, just waiting in base a couple of seconds to get my Bloodthirster. Of course, Bloodthirster is going to be a major power spike. Now, the fact that I've got it means that Ashe has got it as well, because obviously she is like 500 gold up on me. She probably can afford, yep, there we go, another dagger. And yeah, so here we're basically back to the 1v1. Basically, Lulu and Leona have kind of ditched us for the last couple of minutes, and they've gone to mid, they've gone to bot, and it's just myself and Ashe, just 1v1 in the lane. This time though, I have my summoner spells, I have my cleanse, and I have my flash. So if Ashe ults me, this time I think I win because I'll cleanse her ult and I can DPS, you know, during the duration of what I was meant to be stunned in the previous fight, right? So I believe this time, despite the fact that I died to Ashe, I think I win if we get into a 1v1 this time. However, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to specifically attempt to initiate a 1v1 with the Ashe, right? But if we get into a 1v1, I think I have the slight edge. But it remains to be seen. Right, so here I'm just continuing chumming the wave. I'm assuming that Ashe is back based on the fact that she hasn't showed. It turns out she didn't. She was just waiting for me to push in the wave. Now, I don't know why Ashe is waiting for me to push in the wave when she was actually kind of winning. Now here we get a slightly positive trade onto the Ashe, but now we see Wukong coming in through the gate. I'm gonna have to cleanse Flash. Now Wukong unfortunately slows me down, I guess. And I try to trade onto the Ashe, but the shield bow shield is just a little bit too large. Now honestly, this one's my mistake, right? I was super overextended, and the Wukong actually took the Hex Gate. You can actually see that on the map, right? So he was on full vision taking the Hex Gate, but I simply did not pay attention to the minimap, and I did not notice, leading to my demise, right? So now we can see what MF is truly made of. Why? Because we're 1-3-1, horrendous KDA. Looking at our team, our entire team is doing well other than us. We have basically the lowest goal on our team, aside from the support, who thankfully still has lower goal than us, right? If you're ever in a situation where you have less goal than your support, yeah, you know, you're kind of screwed, right? And yeah, so it's not the most amazing situation in the world, but thankfully our team is just doing well in general. So I mean, there could be just a case where, you know, you let your team carry you. There are those kind of games where you are not the main character of the story, and there are a lot of those kind of games actually, but sometimes you just gotta to play safe, let your team carry you, and not just feed the enemy, and sometimes that's how you win games, right? But of course, sometimes, despite the fact you're behind, you gotta make plays, you gotta find ways to get yourself a hit, and you gotta, you know, do what you gotta do to win the game. So a huge fight, a huge 3v3 is happening in the bot lane, whilst myself and Leona are kind of just camping the bush. And now we have no idea if this is warded, so it just might be. And yeah, I don't think there's too much of a reason to continue to camp the bush. I don't think there's any reason why they would, you know, why they would actually go there. Now, unfortunately, Leona messes up her combo and is getting pelted by Ashe, right? So here, in the meantime, I'm gonna actually come and return fire against the Ashe. My shield bow procs, and it's a very, very close 2v2. Eventually, we kill the Ashe, and Lulu now trying her best to trade the kill, and I survive with perhaps literally 1 HP, right? So, first, Leona messed up, right, by not chain CCing properly. If she chain CC'd there, Ashe just dies instantly, right? The flash stun into the ult would have killed Ashe instantly. Unfortunately, the ult came a little bit too late, and Ashe was able to flash away and survive for a little bit. And then the mistake came from me, right? Which is after that play kind of was over, it wasn't actually over, because Ashe was now trying to run down the Leona, who had used all her cooldowns and has no real way of escaping, right? And I was just ignoring the fight and going for the minions because I thought the play was over. The play was not over, and I should have been trading back, right? So that was a very close 2v2, which we won, thankfully. But there is a universe where we don't win the 2v2 because of myself messing up. Now, Ashe getting caught into the bullet time, takes a chunk of damage, actually lives on 1 HP. Collector not coming in clutch there. Tried to flash forward to secure the kill on Wukong. It wasn't actually needed, so a little bit of a waste of a flash. Lulu gets killed by the Collector, I believe, proccing off of my red buff. And now we're just going to continue to clear the wave. Everyone on the enemy team dies except for Mundo, and the game is really turning around for me. Now, all out of the blue, I went from 1-3 to 5-3, just picking up a couple of kills in the last couple of minutes and accruing a bunch of gold. Right, so now I'm back in the driver's seat. I have comparable gold to the most fed members of the game, which are actually my teammates Yone and Lilia. So now, like I said, right, some games you just gotta let yourself get carried. Some games, you know, it happens that you can get back into the game and, you know, you're in a good spot. Right, so here we're just getting a ward into the enemy jungle in the Baron area. So as our team is, you know, really far ahead at this point, there is always a chance we can just do the Baron, even though the enemy team is all still alive, right? Camille and Ashe are on the opposite side of the map of the Baron, so Lulu as well. So now the fact that we see 2 people on the other side of the Baron is a green light to start the Baron. I also get the push in the bot lane. We also have push in the mid lane already, so now this is really the time to start Baron. However, the main issue here is that Lilia is not here, so while we are trying to do Baron, Lilia is not helping us at all, and we are tanking the Baron for free, right? So Leona is getting like chunked by the Baron, and I'm trying to now get a reset to buy items. But now the Yasuo and Mundo are basically committing to the contest, right? And Mundo is not just tanking a bunch of damage, flashes away, and has to try to survive. Wukong pretty much is ignoring the Baron. He's just split pushing, right? So now we definitely gotta be going for the Baron because Wukong is not even trying to contest. However, he is trading it for a tier 2 tower, which is gonna give them the objective bounty, and is also a big gold injection for him. So I don't think it's a worth it trade, right? Because contesting Baron, there's always a chance you steal the Baron and get the bounty and deny the Baron from the enemy team. But, you know, he went for the sure play, right? And here, look at this damage, by the way. Boom, I hit the first strike onto him, and then I try to finish him off with the ulti. I thought I got him, but that was actually the clone. He survives on negligible HP once again. Pretty lucky on his part, but of course I also got pretty lucky in the 2v2 just now, so I'm not, you know, not entitled to complain too much. And here the enemy team trying to push down the mid lane, get the objective bounty, but we're not going to allow it, especially now with the Baron minions. It's not going to happen. However, while we're distracted, Yasuo is pushing in the bot lane. I'm not even trying to stop him because I don't want to 1v1 a Yasuo even under tower. Now, granted, this Yasuo's 1 in 6, right? But, you know, with Yasuo, he just needs to get a good win wall, and that's going to be it, right? Now, here Camille is going in on him, and I'm just, of course, is helping out, and we eventually are able to kill him together, giving me another collector stat. And also, technically, MF is Yasuo, sorry, is MF's biggest counter, right? Because you have to wait for Yasuo to use Wind Wall before you can ult. If you ult in a team fight where he hasn't used Wind Wall yet, and the Yasuo is at least semi-competent, he's going to Wind Wall your entire ult, and you're going to do 0 damage. You're basically going to be as good as not in the fight, right? So you can't do that. Right, now here, huge fight ends up breaking out. I'm just getting an ult to clear the wave at the same time as contributing damage to the fight. Like here, I'm just pelting the Mundo, proccing the PTA onto him. And Camille is on a triple kill, on a quadra kill? I'm not sure. But Camille got a lot of kills there. I actually ended up getting a kill on Mundo. But here we're going to be able to push in the top lane. Inhibit appears. And I'm also going to go for this tier 2 bot tower. I think Yone may not be able to get that. Yeah, I get the huge gold injection from getting that tower. Remember, it just got buffed from 350 to 450. So I actually get 450 gold there. Enemy blue buff is respawning. And with the crit build, you know, you're able to clear jungle monsters a lot faster. It's one of the other pros of the crit build, although I would say that's not really a very major deal. Like here, now we're in the driver's seat. Now we're 7 and 3. We actually now have the most goal in the game with Ashe closely behind, and we're building towards a Mole Reminder. So now, it's a small matter of finishing the game as Camille gets caught 1v5 literally on the overextension of the bot lane. And now I'm pushing mid lane, getting mid lane priority. And at this point, enemy team is all on the opposite side of the map, so we're just taking this opportunity to rob their jungle, try to deny them as much farm as we can. We cannot really push up safely because we don't really have information on where the enemy team is, and of course we don't want to get collapsed on by the enemy team. That would not be very good, right? So here, 16 seconds, the Ocean Dragon is going to be spawning. That is going to be Ice Soul for my team. I am very close, I believe, to getting Mole Reminder, so I'm trying to farm it up and get Mole Reminder before the fight. However, it looks like even before the dragon spawn, a kind of, I don't know, a standoff is kind of happening. Dragons now just spawn. Myself and Camille are getting out of base and trying to make it to dragon as quickly as we can. Of course, we are late, but with MF strut movement passive, you can get there a lot faster. Enemy team doesn't even appear to be contesting the dragon, so it looks like it's going to be fine. Enemy team does come in for the dragon contest here. I'm just gonna ult. You can see there, I ult into the wind wall, and basically I have to cancel my ult, walk past the wind wall, and then continue to DPS, right? So here we're just going for the fight. I flash pro, I get the double onto Mundo. I'm gonna take the blast plant and go for the Lulu. Lulu goes down. Now we're going to go for Mundo. Mundo goes down, and we basically get the kill on all of them. Now the small issue here is that we don't have a minion wave in top lane, so we're gonna have to go mid lane instead, and this is probably going to be the end of the game right here. With the wave in mid, we can just push in and destroy the Nexus. So, you can see how the crit build works very well as well. I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.